A common topic which used to come up is, I'm going to quit this job. I used to say that every week. I'm always a bit nervous and, thinking about my performance. That performance stress is always over there.
Mm.
How will it impact my reviews? Am I doing a good job?
I got my offer at 8 p.m. and between 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., three written and six verbal cases. Nine cases I had to crack in that 11 hour, kind of window.
Introverted, extroverted is different things, but there are certain tips and tricks which you can do to make your life way easier. It could be very, very basic.
Hello everyone, this is Gaurav Bhosle, ex-McKinsey consultant and career coach to top consultants and consulting aspirants across the globe. And welcome to Unfiltered, a podcast brought to you by Being Consultant, the world's biggest platform of problem solvers. In this particular podcast, we are trying to go very up close and personal with the best consulting mind across the globe to understand their insights about consulting career, their career journey, the kind of decision that they took which shaped their career so that we can crack the consulting career code from there.
Hi, Jay. Welcome to Unfiltered by Being Consultants. So nice to have you today with us.
Thanks a lot for having me, Gaurav.
Great. So, Jay, I have gone through your profile before we spoke, and we also had a little bit of conversation before we started. Your journey is extremely fascinating. Why don't you start off this call by telling us about your journey so far?
Sure, happy to, Gaurav. I was born and brought up in Chennai, did my schooling over here, undergrad over here. I have a
Mhm.
bachelor's degree in electronics and communications engineering. And like some of my engineering friends, towards the end of even, I think during the second half of my engineering degree, I was like, nope, not going to do anything related to engineering going forward. So after my engineering, I joined as a business analyst in a
Mhm.
healthcare IT startup, which is based out of Chennai. So worked there
Mhm.
for like 8 months, and then after that, I went on to pursue my master's degree. So I have a
Mhm.
master's in management from HEC Paris. After that, I joined Bain's Brussels office as an associate consultant. Was there for
Uh-huh.
like 2.5 years, and then I got a permanent transfer to Dallas. Was there for like 3 years, and I finally wrapped up my work with Bain this May, and I've come back home to Chennai. So after a lot of country hopping, I'm back to Chennai right now, and here I'm doing a couple of things. I'm sure we'll touch upon those during the course of a conversation.
Mhm. Great, great. That engineer not doing engineering work, right? It's so familiar. I think almost in alternate interviews now, we are getting a very similar story. And my story is also not very different. In fact, I remember when Three Idiots, that movie was launched. Me and my childhood friends, like school friends, we are still very tight,
Hmm.
and we still meet now that I'm back in India. So we went to see that movie together with our wives and
Yeah.
family. And when Amir Khan talks about that dialogue, right? So you start off with this particular degree, and then you did an MBA, and now you are doing banking, right? So I mean, if you really wanted to do banking, then why didn't you take finance, right? Why did you start with engineering? When that funny dialogue came, right? All my friends, looked at me. So I mean, I feel so bad, right? So it's so weird. But yeah, I mean, it's that most of us we end up not pursuing engineering pursuits, but something else. Great, great. So welcome to the club.
Yeah. As long as
Great.
you're happy right now doing whatever it is that we're doing, I guess that's cool.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I completely agree with you. So, given that this podcast is about consulting, and a lot of listeners are aspiring consultants, current consultants, the people who like to, kind of work in a strategy space, just trying to understand, why is it that you decide to get into consulting?
So, to be honest, when I first started my master's degree, I had no idea that I wanted to, pursue
Mhm.
consulting, and
Mm.
I wasn't really clear on the specializations. I mean, it's always better to have an idea of what you want to do when you get into business school, but I had none, and I guess that's cool too, to be honest. But the structure of the MIM program as such really helped me with
Mhm.
this. You're from
Mhm.
HCC, so you would know the
Right.
various program and how they're structured. So the gap year feature in MIM really helped me. I did a couple of internships during my gap year, and that is when I really figured out that I wanted to, do a specialization in strategy and then consulting. So
Mm,
yeah, accordingly, I pursued a master's in strategy or specialization in strategy. So even towards
mm,
the end, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go into corporate strategy or management consulting. So after a lot of debate, I had two offers actually, one from Bain's Brussels office and one from Ericsson's corporate strategy team. And both were very good
mhm,
offers, to be honest. But then after a lot of thought, I decided let me go with Bain, mainly because I wasn't really sure that I wanted to stick to telco or be part of telco industry in the longer term. I just wanted to explore a few
mm,
industry and then come to a conclusion on where do I want to specialize in.
mm. Right. Right. Interesting. And I'm just going a little bit, uh, kind of prior to your decision of getting into consulting, because I would love to understand why did you decide to do a MIN program at HEC in a French college? What is it, what was that thinking like?
So, like I told you, during my engineering degree, I know that engineering is not the one for me. And what the
Hmm.
other thing which I was looking at was, some sort of a degree in business. So that is why, in fact, I worked at this healthcare IT startup. I was actually a business analyst in the product management team. So it's kind of a
Hmm.
role where you coordinate the various process, orchestrate the different process, kind of like a management sort of a role. And
Hmm.
once I was doing that, I realized, okay, I do want to pursue a degree in management, but I did not know whether it was MBA or MIM. And at that point of time, I'm talking about back in I started my MIM in 2016. So I was applying in 2015. At that point of time, this Grand École, this MIM program was relatively new. Not a lot of people knew about
Hmm.
it. So there was also a debate on should I do MIM, which is like a newer program, or should I do an MBA? At
Hmm.
that point of time, I didn't have a lot of experience. And I felt like one for MBA, you do need a couple of years of experience to get the most out of a program. Whereas in MIM,
Hmm.
it's just for people with less than 2 years of experience. And for me, it just seemed like tailor made for me. And two, I also spoke to a lot of people, those who had done their MIM to ask about, what are the career opportunities after doing an
Hmm.
MIM, and everybody kind of had a positive review on that. And also this grand decola MIM phenomenon is really popular in Europe versus the US.
Hmm.
So everybody,
Right.
at least in HEC, it's like the flagship program. So I was like, yeah. And as for the school, it was pretty simple. I went to Financial Time rankings, saw everything. Sen Gallen was at the top, and for Sen Gallen you needed a bachelor's degree in business, which I did not have.
Hmm.
Second one was HEC, so my choices were very simple.
Hmm.
I just have to go
Okay.
for it.
But what about the language and cultural issues? Did you speak French or you learned French?
I mean, in school, they teach you a little bit of French, but then it's honestly pointless, to be honest. So I did learn French before going to France, but then
Hmm.
not to a level where I can, converse freely with the natives or something. I could manage rudimentary French, but I cannot work
Hmm.
with the French. French could never be my working language. So I was always, you know, um, of the thought that, after I finish my degree from HEC Paris or any European institute for that matter, I would go to UK and work. That was always my thought. Brexit was a curveball, but my plan was to complete my master's degree in some European institute and then go to UK.
I think that brings us to that curveball, right? So you wanted to work in UK, you ended up joining the Brussels office. So how did that part happen?
Yeah, it was honestly a complete curveball. They said, okay, I had decided, okay, I'm going to pursue strategy and consulting, and obviously McKinsey, BCG, Bain is the top choices. And then everybody's like, oh, don't apply to London because the visa situation becomes very complicated. At that
Hmm.
time, I was like, where do I even apply? I wasn't aware that other MBB offices in Europe were even accepting non-native speakers. At that point of time, some random person had asked, this Bain Brussels accept English speakers? And they were like, yeah, sure. And once we know, every single person and their sister started applying to Bain's Brussels office. Everybody. And but so I knew that it was going to be tough to get into Bain's Brussels office.
Hmm.
Yes, you should do case interviews. That's like the bread and butter. But if everybody is just going to apply,
Hmm.
so what makes you stand out? the fact that you show real motivation, because suddenly, why does everybody want to get into Brussels is a question, right? So I started very consciously, I started talking to people from Bain's Brussels office like almost
Mm,
more than a year ago. So even with a bunch of people, I had multiple checkpoints. So at the time when I was actually sitting in the interview, I could confidently say, I've spoken with people from Bain's Brussels office, interacted with them for more than a year. And I really
mhm.
like the work which you're doing. I really like the industry you're focusing on. I'm really motivated to come and work here. I could really show the motivation. So somehow that worked out. Yeah.
That's very interesting, right? So basically, we are talking about someone who doesn't, culturally, of course, we are different, but also you did not speak fluent French, right? But you still could make it into Brussels office, which is, I understand it is relatively non-French, but it is still French, right? In a context.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you are telling us is the networking angle, right? So you ensured that you spoke to so many people from the office, right? That you knew what is happening in the office. You could also refer it and probably also show that motivation to the employers that, okay, you have done your research, you know people around here. You will know your way around, right? So which was a positive thing.
Exactly. And I would also say talk to a good number of people, but also talk to the same people multiple number of times. Because,
Mm,
sometimes people reach out to me regarding Bain's Brussels office and then they're like, could you refer me? I mean, I can refer you, but, even in the referral form, they kind of ask, how well do you know this person? It's always, and it's kind of weird to ask someone in the first call, like, can you refer me? Because a lot of people are
mm,
also asking that. But however, if you establish multiple touch points with them over the course of the year and then kind of ask for a referral, then that person knows you and then it is easier for them to refer you as well, and
mm,
they're more open also to talk about what is going on and what are the best practices to apply. It's just easy if
mm.
you don't talk to like 20 different people, but 5 people or 6 people, but have multiple touch points with them, at least like 2 3 touch points through the course of the year. That's helpful. At least that was helpful for me.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. I think I also generally advise people that don't just directly touch base before the recruitment time. Just be in touch with people, for some time, right? You first start off probably by telling them your intention, right, of getting into consulting and overall guidance, right? And then go slowly, uh, go, kind of in a narrower conversation so that by the time you reach and ask the referral, right, they know your background. They know
Yeah.
that you are preparing because ultimately giving a referral is also about that person's credibility, right? So they would only refer you if they know you well and if they know that you are a good candidate, right? No point also referring to people whom you don't know and who are weak candidates, right? So that strength of that confidence in them you need to create so that they refer you. Yeah, and I think it's something that you did pretty amazingly. Super. How was your integration in the Brussels office?
Gaurav, whenever somebody reaches out to me regarding Bain's Brussels office, this is a question which I've always asked. And honestly, I did not face any challenges with in this particular regard. The
Hmm.
working language is English. As far
Hmm.
as you know, in the Bain's Brussels office, I have never personally seen a project which was in French or Dutch. It was always English. So that
Hmm.
made things very easy for me. And there were a couple of things, which made integration very easy. One, people really care. So, for example, when I joined as an associate consultant, the head of the office, used to set up 15-minute, check-ins with me periodically just to see how I was
Wow.
faring. I mean,
Hmm.
he need not do that, but the fact that he does do it shows that he cares, and made me feel really valued as an employee. And two, at least when I joined back in 2020, the office was pretty small. It was only like 150 people. So it's very
Hmm.
easy to maintain that, close knit structure and, be good friends and, attend, housewarming events and things like that. It's just easier if it's a small, close knit group. But now it's grown,
Hmm.
obviously. And
Hmm.
the Brussels office also took a lot of programs. They invested a lot in diversity and inclusivity training. There were programs regarding avoiding unconscious bias and things like that, and that also
Hmm.
really helped. So
Hmm.
it's not difficult at all. Somehow, people keep asking me this question because when I was applying to Bain's Brussels office, this was a question I had asked every single person I spoke to. But
Mm.
having experienced it, I can honestly tell you that is not an issue at all. It's a complete non-issue.
Okay, okay. And you when you were in Brussels, you ended up working uh, the Brussels or Belgian project, or you got an exposure to work across different countries?
It was actually, it's funny because I know we spoke about this earlier. So most of my projects were outside Brussels.
Mm,
There were projects in Italy, there were projects in Sweden,
mhm,
Germany, France. There were very few projects based in Brussels. And oftentimes, if a partner from Brussels is selling a case and you need some person from Brussels to be part of that, team, I was that person. So
mhm,
I just got exposure to a lot of people, but mostly across
mhm.
Europe. Brussels has a European staffing model. So
Okay.
I had like maybe one case with a partner from the US, but aside from that, it was all Europe.
So I love to ask this question. So how was your first project like? Tell me about how was that experience?
It was definitely interesting. I can tell you that. It
There-
was,
There's another way in which I typically ask this question, which is
yeah.
you landed or you crash landed.
Crash landed for sure. So, so it was actually a 6 week project, and I was
Uh-huh.
put in I think the third or fourth week of a 6 week project. So it's
Okay.
already super intense. Everybody is running, and it was my first project, and it was a travel
Mhm,
case to top it all. So I was completely lost. And it was my firm belief that I'm not going to last at Bain for even 6 months. I truly believe that. So, but yeah, somehow I did last. It was an
mhm.
experience for sure.
Okay. Okay. No, I think I think a lot of consultants talk about it that how first 3, 4 months everyone feels that they don't even belong there. Yeah. Till
Yeah.
they meet people who are also similarly suffering, right? In some
Yeah.
trainings, and they realize, oh, okay, it's going as bad for you as well. Okay, then probably, which means we might survive. Great, great. So when did that feeling started coming that you belong to MBBs, you belong to this place?
Well, if I have to be completely honest, I don't think there was ever a point in time I could say, okay, from this date on, I felt completely confident that I'm a consultant, I can do this and all. I would say
Mhm,
the feeling just comes and goes in waves. If a project is going extremely well, then I'm like, yeah, this is where I belong, sort of, I have that sort of a feeling. But if it's
mhm,
a new project or a new team or when things are not going well, I'm always a bit nervous and thinking about my performance. That performance stress is always over there.
mhm,
How will it impact my reviews? Am I doing a good job? I'm also
mhm,
an introvert and a person with a low level of confidence. So
mhm,
the question of what am I even doing here? Do I even belong here? Used to come up often in my mind. I mean, obviously, as I continued my career at Bain, spent a couple of years at Bain, this feeling reduced. But this used to come up often whenever it's a new project or whenever I'm feeling nervous. I don't think it ever went away, to be honest.
That's interesting. And I think that is also the characteristic of consulting as a profession, right? So it challenges you all the time. So
Yeah.
by the time you are comfortable in your shoes, right, a next level challenge is already in front of you. So that confidence typically is like this, right? Goes up, down, goes up, down, and that's probably also the fun of consulting. Go ahead, Fred,
That's
please.
why your point made a lot of sense, like, have your crew. If you know that people are in the same boat, same shit, same boat,
Mm.
whatever, you feel so much better. Your confidence level kind of increases when you know everybody is suffering or everybody is struggling. So good. But yeah.
I remember one of the participant on the podcast itself talked about he got like completely sloshed. The first 3 months, like he was completely knocked out, and then there came a training, and when he went for the training, almost deciding now after the training, I'll probably put in papers or that's it. I don't belong here. And then on one evening dinner with the other fellow, kind of training mates. When they opened up, they realized everybody is getting completely hammered. I said, everybody getting hammered gave me confidence that I belong here. which
Yeah.
means,
And a common
I'm
topic
not too
is
bad.
yeah. And also a common topic of discussion is when am I going to quit consulting? I think I was saying, not seriously. I started thinking about, moving on from consulting only after I turned 30, after almost like 4.5 years at Bain. But almost even the first year, second year, a common topic which used to come up is I'm going to quit this job. I used to say that every weekend or every week.
Absolutely.
I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to quit this job. And everybody around me also said the same. Some of them are still here actually at Bain. So they're at Bain now. Yeah.
When I had my the leadership training before the engagement manager promotion, a lot of us used to have a same conversation. Why are we attending this? Are we really going to stay in McKinsey till we become managers? And it's like every Friday, kind of a evening conversation. How is it going? Are you able to sustain it? Do you plan to continue it? So it's amazing. But yeah, of course, a lot of them are still there, and a lot of us actually pushed along. Yeah.
Yeah.
You spoke about being an introvert, right? By the way, I'm also an introvert. On the MBTI scale of introversion and extroversion, I'm like minus 24, like as introvert as it can get. Tell us a little bit more about being introvert in consulting firms, right? How would you describe your experience? What would you tell fellow introverts in terms of consulting and how they should kind of think about consulting?
Initially I had a, perspective that, introverts can't survive in consulting because, it involves talking to a lot of clients and things like that. But that's not true. There are a lot of introverts who made it to partners. I've seen them. And you just have to understand your working style, and work accordingly. So I kind of know that, my working style is I'm an introvert. So I need some time to myself, to need time to think for myself. And only then can I come into a group setting and discuss. So I know my working
Mm,
style and I also convey this very clearly. I'm not sure how it goes in McKinsey, but at Bain, we have like a kickoff session where the MBTI, or the personality type is discussed at length. So during that session, I always make it a point to convey that on the MBTI scale, I am INTJ, where my I is dominant and my J is also pretty dominant. And because of that, these are the, little quirks which I have. I take a little bit of time to myself to think through and then come to a group.
mm,
I'm not the sort of person who is, who's very comfortable with an impromptu, come, let's just brainstorm together sort of situation. I like to prepare
mm,
beforehand and then come into the meeting. So I convey
mm,
this. And so once people are aware, then they're cool with it. Then they know how to work with you. And similar to knowing your MBTI profile, also understand the MBTI profile of your direct report and the person you're reporting to. That also really helps, I would say. And then
mm,
in terms of dealing with clients and when you're an introvert, always invest the time to have one-to-one calls with your client counterparts in the very beginning and develop a good rapport with them because this makes your life so much easier down the line. For example, if I have to
mm.
go present to a larger group of clients, I'm much more comfortable because I would have already interacted with them, beforehand. So these are just little tips and tricks. So
Right.
once you understand them, it's easy enough to, work in consulting. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. You can adapt your working style accordingly. And others can
Okay.
adapt as well. So that works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've done a lot of work on the MBTI and a few other personality tests because then for the last 10 years I'm into a coaching profession, right? But uh, I was really fascinated how McKinsey actually used MBTI. So just first week we went through the test, and I still remember in our basic consulting readiness where like probably 200 consultants were there from different offices in Kitzbühel in Austria, the skiing resort that McKinsey used to own. They actually showed us. I mean, before they gave out the results, right? They asked us. Now that we have explained you what MBTI is and all the 16 personality types, right? What does that? What do they mean? Yeah. What do you think out of these 4 by 4 metrics in 16 quadrant? Which are the quadrants, if you think McKinsey, if I plot the entire McKinsey people, which quadrant would be empty and which quadrant would be like full of people? a lot of people gave the same answer, right? That okay, or everything on the extrovert side will be very heavy, and introvert side will be, very empty, or something like INFP, right? Would be probably completely empty, right?
Empty.
0%. And then they showed us the data of all the MBTI that they had conducted over the years with McKinsey consultants. And we were shocked to see every quadrant was filled up. There was no quadrant which was empty, right? And it wasn't like one quadrant had 20% and quadrant had only 1% of McKinsey. It was occasionally equally distributed. So
Yep.
in first 15 days of McKinsey itself, they taught us, right? It's not about introvert and extrovert, right? The success in consulting has nothing to do with whether you are introvert or extrovert. So which was very nice. And then of course, as you rightly pointed out, or you also pointed out, I think even in McKinsey, we used MBTI for our staffing. Also, sometimes constructing the teams, we purposely added, let's say, an ENFP, right? When we for a market entry kind of a project, or we purposely ensure that there is a proper mix of personalities. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think this science or whatever, this art and science, it helps for sure.
It really does. And also, what helped me was when choosing a mentor, I think I chose someone who had a similar personality type, who was a little bit introverted, who was, was heavily on the
Mm,
J side, who liked to make list, things like that.
yeah,
So that really helped me because introverted, extroverted is different things, but there are certain tips and tricks which you can do to make your life way easier. It could be very, very basic. Like I said, just have one-to-one calls with your client early on during the process. But you should actually do that. And there should be somebody
mm,
to tell you that, okay, you should do this. It's going to make your life so much more easier. So I think if you choose a mentor or a sponsor who kind of, mirrors your personality type a little bit, it becomes easier because then they will guide you because they've already crossed that
yeah,
path and then, they can guide you. And I was lucky in that
absolutely.
respect.
Yeah.
The first, I think the first mentor who was assigned to me in Brussels, she had a similar personality type. And the mentor who was assigned, who I chose in Dallas, he had a similar personality type as well. So it was very convenient for me. I was lucky in that regard.
By the way, I'm ISTJ. You
I,
are INTJ.
I
Yeah. So
am.
good. So moving on from personality and probably to traits, right? You talked about showcasing confidence, right? And some people are good at it, right? They're born with it, right? Some people, find it difficult, right, to project that from minute one. So, do you have any tips for those?
I think during the time when I felt very low in confidence, what I've done is like taking a step back and think about the past achievement. Like there were some projects when I was like, oh my god, I think I'm performing badly. What am I even doing here? At that point of time, I'm like, and I tend to read between the lines. I might be doing good, but
Mm,
then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing well or something. Our mind thinks 100 different things. So at that point of time, I just talk to my mentor or my friends or my mom, and what they've already always tell me is that just think about all that you've achieved in the past. You've done tougher cases than this before, and you were good with that. And this will be fine. You just don't overthink. Just look at your past
mm,
achievement and know that you can do this. I think just remembering that you faced tough situations in the past kind of
mhm,
helps you realize that, okay, fine, I can do this as well. And two, being well prepared. Like I also told you, Gaurav, like my J is heavily dominant. So that combined with low in confidence always means that I prepare very well beforehand, be it for any meeting, even if for a general brainstorming session. I always have like a few talking points in mind before I step into the meeting. It just makes me feel more confident. And then
mm, mm.
the third one is what we discussed earlier. Surround yourself with people who are vulnerable. If everybody is struggling, then it kind of boosts your morale a little bit. Yeah.
Very wicked suggestion.
Yeah. Misery loves company. Everything loves company. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
So let's come to a little bit consulting life, right? So I know this is a very cliche question, but
Mm.
I have to ask because I get so many different responses, and it just adds to the variety. So, how does a week in a life of a consultant look like, or how did it look like when you were a consultant?
Well, the aim is to have 60-hour work week. That's the aim. Uh,
Hmm.
Typically, if I start my day, I start it around 8:30ish because then I
Hmm.
can quickly check my emails and then align with my direct reports on the to-dos for the day. And typically around 9ish, 9:15ish is when we have the morning check-ins, and then to align on the priorities for the day. And then we have like an afternoon check-ins, 3ish or 4ish. And pretty much Monday to Thursday, it's the same rhythm. But on Fridays, it's like after 5, nope, nobody touches the laptop. So yeah, that is how the typical work week looks like. It's heavily front loaded, I would say. So especially Mondays to Wednesdays are a bit hectic. Thursdays are okay. Fridays, like after 5, I don't know who anyone is. It's more like
Yeah,
that.
that's interesting. And you are saying then Saturday, Sundays you didn't work?
No. I mean, if someone wants, you can always, Sunday evenings, you can always, prep for next day or something, but it's not necessary. You can make sure that your weekends are completely work free. There's never been a project where I was asked to work on a weekend. There's never been one.
Okay. And you're talking about not just Brussels office, but also in Dallas office, yeah?
Dallas is less hectic compared to Brussels.
Okay.
So there was absolutely no weekend work. No.
That's a very refreshing answer. I think at some point of time we should compare all these answers across the podcast episodes to really see the kind of varied experiences that we have had. But it's very, very, very interesting to know that the weekends were kept out and Friday evenings were good. I also remember we always had our office Friday policy. So Thursday night we used to fly in, and Friday used to be from office work. And yes, in the second half, it used to be the bar used to be open and amazing time, yeah. But that did not mean that over the weekend we didn't work. I mean, there were times when we actually worked over the weekends as well. But yeah, absolutely. I think every office, every project is different. I'm sure that's the case. Let's talk about your move, right? So you started off with Brussels office and then you went to Dallas office, right? So tell us a little bit more about how did that come about?
So actually, at Brussels, I did not have any family, and
Hmm.
I had a bit of a health issue at that point of time. It was very difficult because, one, of course, I would want my parents with me, and they weren't there, and even it was like to do someone to help out. I did not have that, so I was like, I need some sort of family. I mean, obviously, I could have asked for help from people from Brussels office, and they were more than willing to help me out. In fact, they called up, they checked upon me, and they were willing to come and help me out, even with household tasks. They were so generous. But then a consultant's life is pretty hectic, and the last thing I want to do is call them and say, oh, can you please come and do this for me, pick up
Absolutely.
this for me. I didn't want to do that. So after this health issue, I was like, okay, I want to be in a place where I actually have family, and I still
Mm.
want to be part of Bain. So I was looking at the various Bain offices across the globe, where I also had relatives, and somehow I still wanted an international exposure. So I was like, Dallas, it is for me. I had a lot of extended family in Dallas. So I was like, okay, let me go try out Dallas. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. I can always come back to India, but let me just go try out Bain Dallas, see if it works for me because my family is also there and I'm still get to be a Bain consultant. And it did work. I mean, I stayed there for 3 years, so yeah, it clearly worked.
That's interesting. And finding out sponsorship, support, etc. It was smooth. Any learnings, anything that you noticed while you transition?
They were very kind, Gaurav. In fact, when I was considering a transfer, I did talk to a lot of my colleagues, and they were like, from Brussels, do not ask for a transfer to the US. You're never gonna get it. They were like, if you do want to transfer, transfer to the UK, or transfer to Sweden or something like that. And people, when they did place a transfer request, this is what they were typically asking. Nobody even bothered asking about the US. I was like, I don't have a lot of family in the UK, nor do I have extended family in the rest of Europe. So Why would I want to go there? So I was like, okay, I'm going to ask. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then let me
Mm,
think. Maybe I would also consider opportunities outside Bain. I was, prepared for that.
mm,
So all I had to do was, talk to the office head about this once, talk to my mentor, talk to the HR. I had three calls. It was like a short 20-minute call, and I explained this to them, and that's it. Nothing else was
wow.
done from my end. They took the lead. They took care of everything, and they took care of the visa process. They took care of every single thing. It was a very, very smooth process. I think all it means is we should just ask. Whether they give
Yeah.
it or not, it's a different thing, but just go and ask. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So very nice. I think, yeah, it's a very, very positive experience, right? And I think all the things that you're talking about, it's almost now, this episode is going to be Bain branding almost, right? When Bain offices now don't have to do any marketing. No, very, very nice. I mean, genuinely, I feel if that's the support that you got, which means I think very nice leadership, very empathetic people were around you, and I'm sure it also meant that you had created that credibility. You were adding that value to the firm, right? So that firm supported you. So coming to the experience in Dallas office, right? So from Europe to US, right? Though we know that consulting is, as we say, a profession with a global culture, right? But we know that every office has a different culture, and you're talking about changing continent literally. How was it? How was it different as compared to the Brussels office?
Hmm. More than the culture, what really stood out was the salary, let's be honest. So, when you compare Brussels and Dallas, the gross salary is higher in Dallas and there's lesser taxes in Dallas.
Mm,
So, I was taking home, the take home is way more in Dallas, almost twice what I was earning in Brussels. So, there's a massive difference over there. And then,
mhm,
two, when you compare Dallas and Brussels, there's a staffing model. Like I said, we had touched upon this earlier. Brussels has a European-wide staffing model, so you get to travel across Europe.
mm,
Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depends upon each person. In Dallas, it was actually a regional wide staffing model. So Bain has three offices in Texas: Dallas, Austin, Houston. So the travel is like
mm.
pretty much within these three cities. So
Okay.
makes it way more easier. And the project duration. So in
Mhm,
Brussels, a lot of the projects were of shorter duration. They were like 6 to 8 weeks, like 2 months. So, and
mm,
also with a shorter project timeline, if it's a shorter project timeline, it tends to be like a little bit more stressful. Whereas in
mm,
Dallas, it's of a longer duration. It was like 3, 4
mm,
months. Even a single phase was 3, 4 months. So it was easier, I felt, it was like less intense. At least, that was my personal opinion.
And over the whatever, I think 5 years you spent with Bain, right?
Mhm.
So what all different industries and what all different topics did you cover in
Yeah.
terms of the project exposure?
Yeah. So in terms of industry, I would say when I was in Brussels, it was mainly telco and it
Hmm.
was a lot of manufacturing, chemicals, packaging. So a lot of chemicals, a lot of packaging. So this is what I worked on in Brussels. In Dallas, it was mainly tech. It was almost like, of the 3 years, almost like I would say 2.5 years, which is filled with tech, I would say.
Okay.
An interesting aspect is that in spite of the industries, most of my projects, like I would say 80% of my projects, be it in Brussels or Dallas, they were all like, PMO, IMO, post-merger integration, program management office, customer experience, a lot of, process-driven projects. So I would say
Mm.
somehow a lot of people don't like doing PMO projects and I like it. So I kept getting staff nerd again and again as well, I would say. So my core experience lies there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I wonder how does that align with the with you being introvert? Because I think in on PMO project, one of the success factor is also that relationship, right? So a lot of people involvement, right, on PMO project.
Yeah. And one of the key factors of a PMO project is also being highly process oriented. And
Mm.
my J is also extremely dominant. I'm the sort of person who feels happy looking at a list. So that worked in my favor. But of course, like you said, the people aspect, I had to put in a lot of efforts, right? Like in the beginning, like, I kept, one is to call with so many people. I think even in the first year as an associate consultant, we were short staffed. So I was lucky enough to work directly with an associate partner. And because we were short staffed, I got that opportunity. And in that particular telco project, it was a customer experience. We were revamping the entire B2B customer experience for a telco player. So
Mhm.
there we had to coordinate with so many different people. Like there were around 40 plus people. And most of my, from starting from morning like 9ish until 5ish, I used to have phone calls with the people, and my actual work used to start after that. So I invested a lot in the beginning, just talking to these people, establishing, connection with them, even
Mm.
after getting the data in case as a result, also, calling up these people and letting them know, okay, your data was used this way. There was a lot of effort being put in for the people side of things to manage the PM, any sort of process oriented work. But I think what really, really helped me was my J being very dominant. I think.
Mm. That 9 to 5 calling reminds me of one thing, right? So, there are a lot of people who find it very difficult to do networking, right? They find it odd, awkward, and I always tell them that treat this as a training ground for your consulting work, right? Because in if you can't knock on the doors, right, at this point of time where risk is relatively low, right? How are you going to do it when you are in consulting? Because in consulting, a lot of times, right, we have to really, really make those calls where the other side of the other person on the other side actually hates us, right? Or
Yeah.
doesn't want to give data, right? Or sometimes we have taken a tough call, the termination of some of the people or some of the strategic projects, right? And you have to deliver that news, right? So it is so much tougher, right? Where to pick up a call, pick up a phone, and kind of ring someone in those situations. If you compare it to a LinkedIn message or an email saying, "Okay, I would like to have a 20 minutes coffee conversation," how bad can it go, right? So,
Yeah.
and in consulting, it's a completely different level, right? So I think networking is one of the learning ground for you to get into really be good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and this particular project was interesting because the associate partner was, was very kind, and he was like really helpful, put a lot of trust in me, and also a lot of people were working from home, so I think that made things a little bit easier for me. I could talk to them
Mhm.
via Zoom versus in person. I think Zoom is a little bit more convenient for introverts. At least that's my personal opinion. And this particular associate partner, he was stressing the importance of networking and from the very beginning. So I was at his client side, and he was like, why don't you just, go to this particular second floor and just walk along, and then just say hi to the client. You're like, oh, I happen to see you. Hi. Act as though you're just seeing them. Like,
Yeah.
you're just passing by and you're seeing them. I thought he was just making a funny comment, and then I did not say anything. The next thing he was like, oh, did you do that? I'm like, oh my God, he's being serious. He actually wanted me to do that. Networking is that important, and these casual, these water cooler conversations, or these casual conversations when you meet people at, at this vending machine, and you have, those are all very important. You get a lot of information that way. Like, somehow, PMO side, I got this exposure at a very early stage in my Bain career, and that naturally coupled with my, dominant J side kind of helped me with PMO thing, I think.
You loved your consulting days, huh? So, so
There
my
are good
next
and bad
question is,
days. Yeah.
why did you decide to leave consulting then?
I think it was a hard decision to leave Bain, and it's not like a year or two. It's a 5.5, which is a significant chunk, right?
Mm.
And it's not like one single incident which made me leave consulting, but I would say turning 30 was the trigger point, to be honest. I think in my mid late 20s, I feel like I was always running. I was just focusing on my career and working hard, and my focus was always on, okay, when is my next promotion? How will my review look? And how will my, you have a PD checkpoint every 2 weeks. How will my PD checkpoint
Mm.
look the next week? It was always like that. But when I turned 30, it just made me stop and kind of reflect on things. Where do I want to be in the next 5 years? How much time do I want to allocate to my family? Do I want to start something on my own? Which country do I want to settle? And all these thoughts were weighing very heavily on my mind. And at this point of time, I was also a little ill and I was like terribly missing my parents. I then was like, okay, fine, let me take a call. And then I decided to come back home to Chennai, India. It was not a very easy decision. And I'm the sort of person who takes a good amount of time to think before actually coming to a conclusion. So for
The
almost
J part.
yeah, but this was for very long, for
Right.
almost a year, like 10 months to a year. I thought about all this before actually, quitting and coming back.
So now looking back, right, on those 5.5, 6 years, what did you like about consulting, and what is it that you did not like?
The exposure. I would say the thing I like the most about consulting is exposure. I mean, right now you could ask me how many industries do you have exposure in? I can say chemicals, airlines, telco, so many things. And then you could also ask what are the countries you have, been to? Who are the people you work with? And I can tell you I work with people across Europe, across US. I don't think I would have had this exposure if it wasn't for
Mhm.
Bain, to be honest. And working with really smart people, I think that's a pro of consulting. And of course, the disadvantages of consulting is the work-life balance is hard. No matter what,
Mhm.
consulting is an intense job, and
Mhm.
some people can really draw their boundaries, and I'm
Mhm.
not one of those people, unfortunately. Looking back, if I had said no, I want to take every 2 hours off on a Wednesday to go do some sports. If I was very strict about my boundary, people would have
Mhm.
respected that. But then I was not. So I think the work life balance was a struggle for me. Work is hard. I made it even more difficult, I would say. And two, personally for me, it's away from home, right? My parents are in India and the US. My extended family is there, but then my parents are here in India, so it is very difficult. In Europe, you never realize all this. In Europe, it's like a 3.5 hour or 4.5 hour time difference, depending
Mhm.
upon the daylight savings. But US, it's like 10.5 hours or 11.5 hours. It's like absolutely insane. If I miss a small window, then I just can't talk to my parents for that day. So that the flexibility I did not. I mean, the lack of flexibility in terms of work-life balance and the distance from my parents. Those were the main things I did not like about consulting.
Interesting. And you said a lot of people approach you, right, for advice, for consulting referrals, etc. So, have you come across any myths that people feel consulting is like this, but now that you have been there, you think those are like big myths?
Hmm. I don't think people who actually approach me regarding consulting will say this. But then everybody, when I was in the business school and I was applying to consulting, and my friends were applying to finance or marketing, they used to tease me. Consulting is just creating endless PowerPoint presentations. And there used to be this funny meme. I want to be a consultant. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but yeah. And I used to keep getting that from a lot of people. But
Mhm.
yes, consulting is a lot of PPT because the end result is given in PPT, but a lot of work goes on in the background, right? I mean, you would
Mhm.
know there's so much of, massive, massive amount of data analysis. They just throw all the documents in Excel files at you. You have to analyze all that. There's market research, financial modeling, lots of interviews. The end result is PPT, but then I think consultants do much, much more in the background. You can say the entire
Mhm.
Microsoft suite. We carry everything.
Okay, okay. No, that's true. I think that is a big myth. Yeah, cool. So, what's next for you, Jay?
Yeah, a couple of things are going on actually. I think in terms, I'm focusing on independent strategy consulting in the Middle East. A few good
Mhm.
projects have come up, and I'm kind of fine tuning the details over there. I'm really excited about it because one, still get to do consulting work, but have my home base in India and also have the flexibility, right? So there
Mhm.
are some weeks when I can work from home. There are some months when I don't have to work. I can just do my own passion projects. So I'm super excited about this independent strategy consulting.
Mhm.
And the second one, I'm also into the construction and renting of industrial warehouses. The first one is done, and the second one is in the design phase. Because again, the J
Mhm.
kind of plays over here. Because when I started working at Bain in Jan 2020, I was like, nope, have to set up passive income as soon as possible. So somehow, warehouse construction is going on the side. And the last one, which is very interesting, never thought I would do something like this, is the 30s club. So
Mhm.
after I quit Bain, like and moved back to India, a lot of people were asking me like what's next, and not just about my professional work, but about my life in 30s in general. So I was like, I just posted on LinkedIn saying, okay, there are a lot of questions which I have regarding my 30s. I honestly don't have the answers, and I'm kind of cool with, not knowing the answers right now and kind of, figuring it out on the
Mhm.
go. I guess this kind of resonated with a lot of people because a lot of
Mhm.
strangers, friends, a lot more strangers kind of DM me saying that, okay, I completely feel this, I'm in the same situation. I think that kind of led to the starting of 30s Club. Mainly,
Mhm.
I just mean for it to be a place where people in their 30s can come and feel better and know that, they're not the only ones in the boat. There are other people. Like we said, everything loves company. um, I have some ideas on what 30s Club will evolve into, but it's
Mhm.
preliminary and I'm like taking the time to let it evolve. I don't want to rush into anything. I'm like having the time
Mhm.
to take things slowly. So yeah, a lot of things are
Awesome.
going on.
Great. Great. And all the best for all these projects, right? And independent consulting, I've spoken about it multiple times on different forums, is one of the emerging trend, right? And a lot of MBB consultants or generally consultants are now taking a route of doing independent projects or getting empaneled with some of the staffing companies, right? And doing project whenever they want to. And after the one project is done, then they decide whether they want to take up second one or not. Yeah, not bad financially, and parallelly they can also pursue a lot of other things, right? And
Completely.
recently, a lot of companies have also come up with these kind of models, so you can actually empanel yourself and kind of mark yourself available and mark yourself unavailable if you don't want to work, right? So which is going good. Yeah, and of course, 30s Club is super super exciting. I think that is the post which actually really when I saw that, when I read that, I could resonate for sure, right? And that is where our conversation also began. So all the very best for 30s Club as well, and you should surely spend time on this. I'm sure this is going to really add a lot of impact to a lot of people's lives.
So
Um, so before we close, one last question from our side. What's your advice to the aspiring consultants?
I would say consulting is a job with a great learning experience and exposure. But at the end of the day, it's still a job. If you don't get it, it's okay. Think about other career options. Always have other career options in mind. And then, second one, when preparing for case interviews, prepare well because there's no other choice. If you don't do good case interview, you're not going to get it. It's as simple as that. So do case prep with a good partner, but also take a good amount of time individually and do case prep. You can do individual case prep as well. Do that. And be good at
Mhm.
mental math. If somebody is asking what is 1 by 7, 1 by 8, please don't blink during your case interviews. Do mental math, that will help. And then, like we discussed earlier, network early and establish multiple touch points. And then the last one is give a couple of interviews before you go, sit for an interview with McKinsey, BCG, or Bain. Like, let that not be your first interview.
Did that happen with you, by the way, or what was your first interview in consulting?
Oh my God, I don't remember actually. But then to be honest, I had actually interned at AXA's corporate strategy team, and I had also
Mhm.
given a couple of interviews for my internships.
Ask,
So they
AFCA
were
where
also,
in Paris?
yeah, AXA Paris, the corporate strategy team.
Okay. Because I also did the same internship, AFCA Investment Managers,
Okay.
corporate strategy in La Défense in Paris.
Okay. But yeah,
Okay.
so I had that experience already of giving case
Mm,
interviews. So
mm.
it was easy for me. So it was not like, and I feel like it was the, during the gap year, it was the first internship and then the second internship. And then the moment you start your specialization year, you again start preparing for interviews. So it just seems like a one huge bunch of interview sessions again and again. So it was not something
Yeah.
new for me.
Now, as a coach, I also recommend this to people, right? So if you are going for hunting, right, hunt rabbits before you go for to hunt tiger, right? Of course, this is a metaphor. Don't hunt poor animals. The point is, but it sometimes it doesn't happen. In my case, my first interview that I got was BCG.
Oh
And,
God.
and and after BCG, it was McKinsey. I mean, it's a different story that I converted both, but I
Oh
never got a
wow.
chance to
Congrats.
practice any with any minnows directly MBB. So sometimes it might not happen. So I think we should be ready in case directly a McKinsey or BCG happens, right?
No, actually, that's great. I don't think I've heard of. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody directly going for McKinsey or BCG or Bain interviews. Actually,
No, I don't think I had a choice. So
okay.
when we applied, and I think the BCG was the first one to respond. And generally, if you are a working professional, they are okay to push dates a little bit further. But if you are a student, they don't listen, right? Okay, this is your first interview date. Done. Just be there, right? So I had no option.
Okay.
And same thing happened with McKinsey. So I directly went into PCG and McKinsey interviews
Okay.
without having any experience.
I think
But yeah, I think
that was the difference, right? For me, I had a slightly different experience in Brussels office. So in
mhm.
Brussels office, I do realize I had an advantage over there. A lot of people have fixed interview schedules, but in Brussels office, you can postpone your interviews. Between my first and second round, I had like a month long break. Second and third round,
Oh,
again, I
wow.
took a month long. So whatever feedback I got, I could actually practice on them and then go for my second round of interviews. I could decide when I wanted to give my second round and third round. So I had ample amount of time to prep and then, go. I think, yeah. I'm not sure if that
Wow.
is still the case in Brussels office though, but when I was there, you can easily move your interviews and have a long spaces between interviews or interview rounds. That was very convenient.
For me, I'll tell you a funny story, which is literally the exact opposite side of the spectrum. And I think few German offices still do it. That's the reason there are so many uh, comedy videos about working with McKinsey Germany, or kind of German managers. What they had was a very grueling process, right? So they had a process called Super Day. On a Super Day, they'll fly you in the previous night, and then in the morning after breakfast, the process will start. That time we did not have online games like Solve, but we used to have PSTs, which is problem solving test, which is three written cases, right? And you will have that. Then they will tell out of those the group who are rejects, they can go home, and the others will go for the first interview. And then one after another, six interview, all up or out
Oh
on
wow.
single day. So I started my PST at 9 a.m. and I got my offer at 8 p.m. And between 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., three written and six verbal cases, nine cases I had to crack in that 11 hour, kind of window. Right. So I remember that day from INSEAD, from HEC, from Harvard, almost 28 people had gathered in the morning.
Mhm.
So we were 28 of us in the breakfast. I told it's really it's grueling, right? When you see
Yeah.
we come back from an interview, now only 14 are left, which means 14 are rejected. After 1 hour, you come back in the gathering area. Okay. Oh, Tom, you are going. Oh, done. He's gone.
Oh
So like
wow.
really psychologically, kind of challenging.
Hearing
But
about
yeah, I
it
mean,
sounds exhausting. Imagine actually going through it. I mean, kudos to you for going through all that
yeah.
and making it to McKinsey.
But there were some offices, NBV offices and other offices as well, who used to have a single day process. I think probably it's reduced. The number of interviews also now there are mostly most of the MBBs now have four interviews. So two interviews in first round, two in second. When I did it in 2008, it used to be 2007. It used to be six interviews. So
But mine was
mm,
split two, two, and two. But yeah,
mm,
I think I'm not sure what the current recruiting process at the Brussels office is. But when I was there, it was on a rolling basis. It was very convenient. But I know for Dallas, it's not like that. They have specific recruiting days. I know that. But I do know that they made some sort of changes to avoid unconscious bias. Earlier, we used to have like the in each interview it used to be like a case part and also some sort of fit questions check. But
mm,
then they kind of remove the fit questions check so that if I'm interviewing someone, I just go give them the case and get the answers from
right.
them just to make sure we avoid any sort of bias. And I think they were trying to implement some sort of PSG sort of thing similar to McKinsey as well. But I'm not aware of what is going on right now.
So I think Bain now have SOA as a test before the interview starts, right? The way McKinsey has Solve and BCG has KC. And yes, Bain actually, most of the offices, they actually follow this process that they don't share the name of the interviewer to the candidate, and even the interviewer doesn't know who is the candidate to avoid the bias, right? And yeah, that's correct. That's probably very Bain specific. And just to for the listener, whenever people are going to listen to the podcast, a lot of time we talk about it, but one nuance a lot of people don't know is that in consulting generally, different offices might have little bit different policies, right? Because this is a partnership concern, consulting company. So when let's say Jay is talking about her experience in Brussels office, right? Probably a Mumbai office or a Tokyo office might have a little bit different process, right? So 80-90% they try and keep it consistent, but 5-10% most of the senior partners have their leeway, right? So I remember there was a time when BCG across the globe used to have three different assessments. Europe office used to have conduct something different. US office used to conduct something different. So that's possible as well in consulting parlance. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of that, one more advice I would want to give to aspiring consultant is I get asked this question a lot. Which office should I apply to? And I think you have the option to select three different offices, at least in the Bain portal.
Right.
I'm not sure how it's with McKinsey and BCG. So there, so if you kind of put, 33% for office A, 33% for office B, 33% for office C, I don't think that's a very smart strategy. If you're applying to a particular office, they're going to ask for your motivation, like, why are you even applying to this particular office? So
Right.
I would exercise people to, I would ask people to exercise a little caution over here. Be very sure about where you want to apply and give that particular office a much higher percentage. And even in your cover letter, like be very clear about where you're applying to, especially in European offices where where they're accepting non-native speakers. I think nowadays people are like a little bit more careful because a lot of people apply to these European offices, and for some reason or the other you can't blame people. They might want to transfer to some other office. I mean, which is what I did as well. When entering, I did not have the intention of getting a transfer, but then it so happened. But I get a lot of people asking me, can I get into the Brussels office and then transfer to this particular office and things like that. So they will also check for your motivation of applying to a particular office in this particular place. So if you're applying, just be very conscious as to have a very clear list of reasons as to why you're applying to the Brussels office or some Berlin office or something. Be very clear about it.
Absolutely. Great, great, Jay. I think it. I mean, even if we speak for 1 more hour, I think the conversation will keep flowing. Yeah. So that is like two consultants connecting heart to heart. But yes, I think thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you,
You
Gaurav.
really the amount of value that you added through your answers. You are pretty candid, unfiltered. Truth to the tune of the podcast. I'm sure a lot of listeners will benefit out of this conversation. Thanks a lot again, and all the very best for all the ventures, all the adventures all the ideas that you have. I'm sure all of them will be super successful.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Gaurav. And thanks again for having me on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Unfiltered. I hope you liked it. Thanks a lot for tuning in. If you have liked the content, please press like button, subscribe to this podcast, and also share it in your network. And please do comment with your point of views, because we would love to understand your feedback so that we can improve and get you better episodes as we go forward. Also, special thanks to today's guest for dropping so many value bombs candidly and very, very openly. Last but not the least, if you are someone who is working in consulting or a consulting aspirant, do not forget to join Being Consultants WhatsApp community. It is world's biggest community with more than 2000 community members from 40 plus different countries helping out each other in their consulting journey. So until I see you next, keep cracking.